And so without further ado, because I know that you all are very interested in today's topic about digital security, because we just keep hearing about all of these data breaches and our information being shared, and we don't always want our information shared. So we're so fortunate to have Mr. John Sammons. He is a professor within our digital forensics program, and he's also the chair of the Forensic Sciences Division here at Marshall. And so without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to John.
Thank you. Thank you very much. How's everybody doing? Awesome, awesome. Well, like I said, my name is John Sammons, and I am the director of the Digital Forensics Information Assurance Program here at Marshall. I've been here since about 2008. Right now we've got 108 majors in our program, so we're doing pretty well. So the numbers keep going up. We've also got 3 full-time faculty. We started out with only 1. So we've got 3 full-time faculty and 2 adjuncts, so the things keep going in the right direction for us. Thank you very much for letting me talk to you guys today. What I want to do is talk about one specific threat to you guys, all our information out there, and then I want to answer some questions that I think you guys posed to Beth. So without further ado, I want to start real quick. One quick thing about me, back in the day, I spent my 90s buying hookers and crack. Unlike some of you guys, but they were all on the line of duty. I got paid big bucks to do that. So you'll notice that I am rocking that fanny pack right there. But in my defense, that is actually a piece of equipment. All right, so I've got my ham sandwich and my handgun in there. So good stuff. All right, so how many of you guys have seen the movie Taken? Anybody? Okay, good. All right, so you're going to get the metaphor here. All right, so if you're looking for a ransom, I can tell you I don't have money, but what I do have are a very particular set of skills. So what I'm trying to do is impart to you guys some particular skills today that you can go forward with and kind of keep this from happening to you. Has anybody been a victim of ransomware or known somebody that's been a victim of ransomware? Anybody? Good, you're lucky. What that means is, what ransomware actually is it's a piece of malicious software that's installed on your computer that will encrypt, scramble the data on your hard drive, and make it unreadable. And what they do is they get this on your machine, they take control, basically scramble your data, all right? And then they want you to pay them money for them to give you the key to fix it, right? So it can be very, very problematic. But the problem is there is no magic pill. Once this happens to your computer, it's happened to your computer. So you have 2 options at that point, pretty much. One is either pay them, all right, or you have got to basically reformat your machine and rely on a backup. Okay, so you can either erase your computer and start from scratch, or pay them the money. But either way, your data could be gone unless you've got backups. So this is something you definitely do not want to have happen to you. All right, 100%. So basically, this is a new kind of kidnapping. All right, so now they're not after our daughters like in the movie; they're after our data. All right, because they know that we like our pictures and our videos and our iTunes and all the things on our system. All right, and they're leveraging that to make money. All right, so basically ransomware. Okay, talk a little bit about what it is, how it works. All right, some motives and examples, some myths surrounding ransomware. All right, what you can do, and then kind of what's the next thing they're going to try to do down the road. We can put my crystal ball, pull my crystal ball out a little bit. All right, so what exactly is ransomware? Basically, they're going to extort you for money. So again, they're going to send you an email. They're going to have you click on a link, open up an attachment, and when you do that, it's going to inject malicious software, install malicious software on your computer that's going to start encrypting all of the data on your hard drive. All right, you'll get a blue screen from it, or you get a fancy. I've got some examples here of a message you'll see. All right, so basically, again, what they're trying to do is extort you for money. You're going to take control of your computer or files. Okay. Sometimes there's different kinds of ransomware. Some are going to actually lock the computer, render the computer itself unusable. All right, or they're just going to encrypt the data, parts of the data that's on the drive. So there's 2 different flavors, if you will. All right, so we talked about that. So encryption, again, basically is scrambling the data so it makes no sense. All right. So the good news is that that process is reversible, but you've got to have the key. You've got to have the key. Without the key, it's impossible. All right. about that a little bit. All right, so basically you're talking about these age-old scare tactics that happens time and time again. This is a new version of kind of the same thing we've seen before. You may have heard where, it's sort of like, well, actually, probably not like anything we've seen, but it's done by the same kind of folks. Either going to be local, well, not local probably, but the problem with this is you can have folks from outside the United States do this, so they don't have to be, they don't have to be in the same town, county, state. A lot of these folks live in Eastern Europe, so everybody is a possible victim. That's part of the problem. All right, so everybody is a possible victim. So the other problem here is that this kind of thing it can lead to folks that are victims to be embarrassed to report it or to seek help. They think, how was I so stupid to do that? I should have known better than to click on that file or open that link. All right, but that's not a problem because everybody. The reason they do this is because it works. All right, so there's no reason to be embarrassed. The other thing that people get to be self-conscious of is they think they've visited unsavory parts of the internet maybe, or they're worried about exposing their browser history or whatever else. They're worried what people are going to think, all right? A lot of this stuff is not just on the seedy parts of the internet. They do this stuff on regular websites, all right? There's lots and lots of different ways that they can put this code on your machine, all right? So try not to be embarrassed about this. Now, part of what they're going to ask you to do, again, they're going to ask you to pay. That's what this is all about, money, nothing more, nothing less. It's all entirely 100% about the money. So if you don't pay the money, they've not met their goal, right? So they're going to be able to provide you with a mechanism that works. It's not one of those things where if you don't pay, or if you pay, there's a very, very low likelihood that they won't give you the key, okay? Here's one of the screens that they have. Now, if you notice the official looking FBI seal up there, all right? This actually happened to me over there in Morrill Library in middle class. All right, on my computer, one of the students called me to the side and said, hey, what is this? And that's what happened. All right, so they give you this really official looking screen on your computer with a seal of like the FBI or the Department of Homeland Security, scare you to death, accuse you of doing something wrong, okay? This is all gobbledygook, basically, it means nothing, all right? And they tell you what they're going to do for your convenience is that you got to pay a fine, all right, $200, okay, allegedly to the FBI. They give you all these ways to pay, all right. Now, what do you think the likelihood is that the FBI is going to offer you to pay through CVS or 7-Eleven? Right? So back in the day, I would call this a clue, all right. So this is probably not legit, all right. Probably not legit. So this is just one of many, all right. So how it works basically, there's three kinds of ransomware, three flavors if you will, all right? Something called encryption or crypto ransomware, all right? Lock screen ransomware, which is what that thing we just showed you was, okay? Then you have master boot record, MBR ransomware, and that's sort of technical and weeds, don't worry about that, but it's a different flavor. All right, so basically how they get this on your computer, a couple different ways primarily. One is that you visit a website, all right? That they have somehow taken control of or taken control of a specific process, like let's say, the registration process, where you sign up to be a member for a newsletter or whatever, all right? They take control of that process and then put the code on your computer that way. It's by visiting the website, that's all it takes. As soon as you hit that web server, it takes less than a second, and then that malicious code is on your computer. The other way is through email. This is probably the most prevalent way, is you'll get suspicious emails. Okay, you get an email, and this, I'll talk more about this at the end about how to recognize emails that you shouldn't open. But my best advice to you, if you don't take away anything else from this talk today, stop clicking on stuff. All right? Just stop clicking. Bottom line. If you don't click anything, your odds of getting infected are reduced by probably 80%. Okay? So that comes in two forms. You'll see if you get an email that's got a link, or you get an email that has an attachment. Either way, they're both bad. All right? So how do you know what is not a legitimate email? Well, one is it's automatically when you get an unsolicited email of any kind from anybody, you're very suspicious. Doesn't matter if it's from a friend, a relative, whoever. That level of suspicion should start going up. All right? Why would I say be suspicious of your friends or family? They're surely not Russian cyber criminals behind your back, right? Well, the problem is that they can infect their machine. And then it's an automated process. Once that machine gets compromised, bad guys can then take control of their email address book and start to send out emails. And then you did, in fact, I got one from Hank Dye not too long ago, all right? And when I read the body of the email, I could tell it wasn't Hank, you know what I mean? Because you know how Hank talks, or you know how your friends and family talk, how they email you. You can recognize their kind of language a little bit. So that's one way to do it. So anytime you get an unsolicited email of any kind from anybody, start to be very cautious of it, especially if there is a link or an attachment with it. You can also get these things through chat or instant message. Okay? So how many of you guys have smartphones? Probably everybody in the room. All right, you're walking around with a computer in your pocket. All right. And the bad guys know that everybody walks around with that computer in their pocket. So that phone, that device is a prime target for these phones. It used to be, started out, they were all interested in getting onto your computer. But now they've got, everybody, your brother has a phone. Less people have a computer probably. Okay, so they're going where the targets are. So it can be done through social media. I mean, you guys on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all those good things. All right, if you are, be very, very, very cautious. How many of you guys play the quizzes? Like, what kind of toaster am I, or whatever? You seen those? What kind of tree am I, or what kind of toaster am I, or look at this kitty cat, or whatever else, all that stuff. Just don't take the quizzes, don't play the games. All right? I'm serious. This stuff is a lot of that is just nothing but spyware or malware. All right, so here's kind of a process, if you will. So you're going to get spam with a malware. So spam is what? Unsolicited emails, all that is, right? So you're going to get emails you don't want. It's going to be affected either with that malicious payload, all right, that attachment, or a malicious link, all right? Once you click that link or open the file, it's going to download that malware to your computer, and it's going to start to run, all right? Then it's going to start to encrypt your files. What does that look like? Okay, what if you click that button and go, holy crap, what did I just do? What does that look like? Well, it's probably going to see your system's going to slow way down. What that's doing is it's churning through all your data and starting to scramble it bit by bit. Okay. So then, at the end, once it's all locked up, then you'll get that demand. Either they will send you an email, or you'll get that lock screen. All right. But you'll get some clear-cut instructions about what to do. They'll tell you exactly what they've done. They'll tell you, they'll give you a lot of times, they'll try to raise the level of urgency up. They'll say you've got 30 days or 30 minutes or whatever to get you to pay them. And they'll typically want you to pay them this thing called Bitcoin. You guys ever heard of Bitcoin? Anybody? You may know what Bitcoin is. It's what?
Electronic money.
Electronic money. It's called cryptocurrency. Why do the bad guys pay in that kind of stuff versus money orders or credit cards? Not traceable. It's absolutely not traceable. So it's part of the problem. All right. So why do they do that? Like I said, simply about the money. The wampum, the dead presidents, it's all about the money. Entirely about the money. So, why do they do it? Because it works. This happens all the time, every day. It's happening right now as we speak. All right. Low cost for entry. You can go out on the dark web and buy this stuff and use it yourself. You guys looking for a second job? All right. You guys who got their letters, that's sort of like the dark Amway. All right. So you're right there. It's low cost of entry. It's scripted. There's actually sites out there and people that develop this stuff that have customer support. That if you buy their ransomware and you don't like it or you've got a problem, they've got support. All right, you can call them or email them, whatever. All right, and they can help you. It's very hard to trace. Part of the problem with this digital age is that the world has shrunk. Right, so no longer do we have to be in the same room, the same county, the same state. A lot of this stuff is done in the safe havens of, let's say, Eastern Europe, where the laws are a little bit loose and the jurisdictional or the extradition laws are very weak. So it's very hard to trace, very hard to get these folks. So just to put this in perspective of how much of this is going on, all right? Last year there was $24 million roughly in ransoms paid, all right? All right, there was 2,453 reported attacks. How many do you think actually happened? Probably twice or three times that, okay? This is just what was reported. The vast majority of folks won't report it. Crypto lock. This is one of the first and the best of this kind of malware collected $30 million in just 100 days. $30 million in just 100 days. So just the first 3 months of 2016, the attacks increased tenfold because it works. Over the total previous year, costing the victims of more than $200 million. All right, so this is one of those things that can happen to anybody. It is happening to everybody, and it works, and it's very profitable. All right. So what does it cost? What are you looking at in American dollars? About $300 on average. They're going to want you to pay to get your data back, roughly. So one of these guys finally figured out that if I can get $300 out of a person, what can I get if I hit a business? So now it's going to leverage that, and now you're going to see the dollars go way up. So average payment from a business perspective, about $10,000. All right. So they've got to try to find the sweet spot where it's likely somebody's going to pay it. All right. But not so much that they're priced out of the market, if you will. So why not just decrypt it? All right. You think with all the computing power and know-how that we have here in the United States, there should be an easy button for that, right? Well, that's not how that actually works. All right. So basically, this is some technical stuff here, so brace yourself. All right. All right, so this is the kind of encryption right here. All right. So basically, what it would take a computer to be able to decrypt your data with, this is the technology that they use. All right. You're talking about approximately 7 times 10 to the 40 times longer than the age of the universe to exhaust just half of the key to decrypt that data. So in plain English, ain't gonna happen. All right. Not gonna happen. So that's what that looks like to you mathematics. You guys trying to keep score if you're doing that in your head? That's what it looks like. It's not going to happen. All right? It's not going to happen. All right. So using the fastest computer on the face of the earth, it's going to take over 9 years of running 24/7, 365 to get that key for you. Unless you guys know somebody down at Los Alamos or wherever that computer is, also not going to happen. All right? All right, so there's the opposite. Have you guys seen that commercial, the mind-blowing kind of thing? All right, so blow your mind a little bit with that one. All right, here's some examples. All right, so here's some more of those lock screens. All right, your personal files are encrypted. Your important, and then you got to look at the broken English here. This is either generated automatically. This stuff is automated, right? But it's probably written by a Russian. Okay. Your important files encryption produced on this computer, photos, videos, documents, etc. Here is a complete list of the encrypted files, and you can personally verify this. All right, so they're going to have to show you how to look at it, double check to make sure they're not kidding, right? And then they're going to tell you how much money they want, all right, and how to pay for that. So then they'll also, to ramp up the urgency, like 24 for Jack Bauer, you've got 72 hours, 34 minutes, and 50 seconds before that computer self-destructs or whatever, right? So they're trying to ramp up the pressure. Psychological, right? Here's another one. They've also provided you with a spiffy little button to push for the Bitcoin, takes you right to the place. Enter your payments that way. They're trying to make this a great experience to use they can, because they've got your interests at heart. Here's another one. Another countdown. Here's a low-grade one. This is sort of like a text message you can get, email. All right, so they'll walk you through this step by step how to actually do that. Now, like I talked about before, they're really trying to ramp this up and leverage the power of this. And one of the targets that they decided to start hitting on was the healthcare industry. So you can imagine what a hospital would be willing to pay if all of a sudden their patient records are all of a sudden encrypted, they can't access. What's that going to do to the hospital? Shut it down. All right. What happens if all the devices in the ICU get locked up with this? The scary part of this is a lot of those things run on Windows XP. How many of you guys have Windows XP still? Anybody? Good. Right answer. But shockingly enough, a lot of these things run on this old, antiquated operating system. Very vulnerable. Microsoft's, I think, stopped supporting that 2 or 3 years ago. this Kentucky hospital was hit by ransomware. I think they paid, I want to say, finally they negotiated it down. They wanted like either $500,000 or $1 million. And they negotiated it down to like, I want to say 25,000. Okay. So what's going to happen as soon as you pay that? What's going to happen again? Come right back, right? But the FBI told them to pay it because the FBI knew there was probably nothing they could do. $17,000, my fault. They paid $17,000 for that. This is the hospital in California. So some of the myths surrounding ransomware. All right, businesses are less of a target. Absolutely 100% a myth. Okay, this started out against individuals, but they're definitely seeing the power of locking up a business. All right, so businesses are just as big a target, if not more so. So small and medium-sized businesses are less than bigger ones. Also false. Okay, also false. Now you have this the pay or not to pay issue. All right, we don't negotiate with terrorists. You guys have probably all heard of that. So if we pay them, what are we worried about? We're going to keep coming back and back and back. All right, well, it's a double-edged sword. What do you do? Because literally, you're never going to get that data back unless you pay the ransom. There's no magic button to be able to reconstitute that data off the computer. So it's a very tough judgment call. So another thing to think about is why pay them? Or, problem is there's no guarantee you're going to get the key. All right. Ransomware may not be the only problem you're looking at. It keeps the cycle going. Like I said before, they keep coming back and back and back. But in the end, there may not be any real choice. If you need that data, if it's really truly mission critical, you may have to pay the money. That's just a fact, unfortunately, in this scheme. So here's a quote from the FBI in Boston. To be honest, we often advise people just to pay the ransom. The ransomware is just that good. Okay? So not much that they can do about it. So what can you do about this? All right? Being prepared is the thing. The key to being able to survive this is being prepared. So what do I mean by that? How many of you guys back up your data on a regular basis? Really? Promise? Yeah. All right? All right, good. If you guys are not raising your hand, make sure you're backing up your data. Make sure you identify what's the most important and back that up on a regular basis and then verify that that backup actually worked. Okay? Because in the end, everything on that computer may go away. And the only thing you've got to rely on is that backup. So make sure you're doing that. If you've got a backup, this is much less painful. You're gonna lose a lot less data, no matter what the outcome is. All right. If you've got a good backup, you can simply just reformat your hard drive, install everything again, start with a new computer, and call your data back on it. All right. But in that process, you're going to lose whatever's on the computer. All right. So that's why that backup is absolutely critical. Okay.
Is it in the clouds? In the cloud?
Sure. That's one place to do it for sure.
So if you have it, is it automatic? Everything goes.
Yeah, that's one way to do it. Sometimes people rely on actual hardware, and that's another way to do it. Some people get really sensitive about putting their data in the hands of a third party. So I personally use Dropbox and Google Drive. And those things are free. You get a lot of storage space, and all that stuff is automatically done. So when you save it, when you set this up on your computer, when you save it, it's saved just like it's saved to your local machine, but it's actually being stored in the cloud. The good news about one of these cloud storage systems is theirs are what's called mirrored. So if one of their servers crashes with your stuff on it, it's duplicated in another place. So the odds of you ever losing your data from one of these places is very low. So you can get a decent amount of storage space for free. I think right now Dropbox is up to 1 gig for free, and then you can pay I pay like $50 a year for like 50 gigs, which is a lot. So that's another way to do it. But backing up that data is the most important thing other than stop clicking on stuff, right? So back up that data. So how much are those pictures worth? How much are the grandkids' pictures worth? How much are those memories worth? Probably priceless, right? So back that stuff up. Beware of the phishing attacks. What those emails are called phishing, all right? And it's spelled with that PH on the end of it, or the beginning of it. So rule number 1, don't click that stuff, right? Don't click the buttons, Don't click the attachments, don't click the links, don't click it. Be suspicious. Any unsolicited email that you get, start to look at it really much more closely, even if it's from family and friends, okay? Even if it's from family and friends. Trust no one, at least by email. Again, even family and friends, all right? If you get a suspicious email, give them a call. Hey, you send this, all right? It's real simple, but the alternative can be catastrophic. Update and patch, what does that mean? What does updating and patching mean? Some of you guys get those pop-ups, say your system, your software needs to be updated. What do you guys do with it? Ignore it. Later. Remind me in an hour, tomorrow, next week. Before you know it, you can kick the can about 3 weeks down the road or a month, all right? But the problem is, the longer you do that, all right, the more vulnerable your system becomes, because what they're actually doing, those patches, are fixing the vulnerabilities. So by not applying the patch as soon as you get it, you're leaving more and more windows and doors unlocked, if you will, right? So by patching it, you're closing all the windows, locking all the doors, all right, and making it harder. Now, does that mean it's 100% foolproof? No. The Department of Defense spends billions of dollars a year on cybersecurity. How often do they get hacked? A lot, all right? So if they're spending $1 billion a year and still getting hacked, what hope do we have, okay? Not a lot, all right? So keep that in mind. So use those patches, use antivirus. Hopefully everybody's got an antivirus software installed on your computer, okay? Now, let me give you a quick tip on that. In order to make that the most effective, having that software installed is just the first step, okay? But in order for that to be the most effective, is you've got to update it, because it's based on what's called virus definitions. All right, because it's looking on your hard drive for a pattern of ones and zeros that are associated with malware. Okay, so there are literally every day there's around 250,000 individual pieces of malware written. All right, okay, that is a ton. All right, so that's basically, without those definitions, those viruses become invisible to the antivirus software. Right. So unless you install the updates every day or run the updates, you're missing a lot of the stuff that's going to actually catch the latest and greatest malware. All right. So make sure you update it before you run it. So here's some examples of some possible suspicious emails. These are all in my inbox. So James Joy, I have no idea who that is. So automatically, don't have a clue who you are. That's suspicious to me. So of course, they're going to start to threaten me here with, you will not be able to receive any emails until you revalidate your mailbox. Sounds pretty official IT-like, right? It's just like you're getting your knuckles slapped with a ruler, right? If you don't do this now, you're not going to be able to get email. And then you get this great big long link, all right? Don't click it. Absolutely not. Bad, bad, bad. So,
what about so if you put it in your trash, well,
as long as you don't click the link or open the attachment, it's fine. And then, but I would just dump it into your
and then clean your trash.
Right, and then into your trash.
Does that mean you delete it, or you would touch it if you deleted it, wouldn't you?
Well, as long as you don't click the link or open the attachment, you can delete the email. That's not a problem.
Okay.
But just don't click the link or open the attachment. That's where you get in trouble.
Okay, well, you have Joy's name up there. If you wanted to look and see that it's really from him, then click on his name. In other words, I get them from Amazon. It's not from Amazon, it's from Joe Smith.
Sure.
At Comcast.net.
Right.
Lots of them.
Sure.
Is there a danger in looking at who's sending it to you to make sure that the sender is not Amazon?
Not that I'm aware of. I've not seen somebody go to that. That's definitely a way to do it. If you're a bad guy to click that, I've not seen that done in the wild, so I don't know. So that would probably be okay, but you just never know. Clicking on interacting with that in any way is risky. So I would probably not do that, just out of the abundance of caution. But that's definitely one way to do it. I mean, you're exactly right. A lot of times it'll say James Joy, or from Amazon, it'll be a personal account. You know that's not going to work, right? You know that's automatically suspicious.
But Amazon has, if you get something like that, because I click on the sender to see who it's from, and then Amazon has a phishing where you can actually send it they try to take care of them.
That's a very good point.
Different, Amazon, and it seems like, there's a couple others that I get that are suspicious, and I just go ahead and forward them to the companies to let them know that they're phishing. And, so then hopefully they can work
Sure.
what the issues are.
That's a great point. You guys all understand what she's saying? Basically, just a lot of companies will have a kind of a proactive approach. We here at Marshall have this, to where if I get a phishing email, I have a place I can send that or forward it to allow those folks to be able to log the IP address from where that came. Then they can maybe block that IP address from coming into the university. The problem with that is that it's changed so rapidly. Is literally there are millions of computers out there that they have compromised to do this stuff automatically. So it's sort of like whack-a-mole, all right? As soon as you whack one down, there's 3 pop up in another place. So it's kind of almost like running on a treadmill, if you will. But it's not just your computer. Like I said, they're looking at your cell phone as well, so you might get this suspicious text message like I did. I was very fortunate to win the Best Buy gift card of $1,000. All I had to do was hit that link and the world was mine, right? So, but also, they only had 18 left, so time was of the essence. Do what? So here's a thing called the Porn Droid app. Targets Android users and allows attackers to lock the phone and change its PIN number while demanding a $500 ransom. So porn is a huge business on the internet, all right? So one of the things these guys, they recognize that, so they come up with this app to view pornography, right? And the app is not, well, it's like a Trojan horse. So once you install this thing on your device, it's gonna lock your PIN, all right, and charge you $500. But these guys are smart. They know where the people are, okay, and they leverage that vulnerability. So what's next, all right? So basically, ransomware's next target is anything that's connected. You guys know what the Internet of Things is. Ever heard of that? You guys have been to Best Buy lately? If you go to Best Buy, walk in there and start browsing around and looking at all the little widgets, thermostats, toaster ovens, refrigerators, washers and dryers, baby monitors, all this stuff. Anything that can be connected to the internet is vulnerable, and that's where this ransomware stuff is going. About 1.5 years ago, one of the biggest internet problems we had was these things called botnets. You guys have heard of the term botnet? You know what a botnet is? Botnet is a group of infected computers under someone's control that they can use to do bad things with. So a lot of times these botnets can number into hundreds of thousands of computers, just like yours and mine, that somebody has remote control of. And what they can do is they can point all those computers at a single website, for example, and take it offline, because they simply overwhelm the website's ability to respond, and they shut it down, okay? So, as far as the Internet of Things goes, one of the biggest problems we had a couple years ago is the bad guys realized this, and they were able to take down and shut down tremendous internet resources, leveraging just the traffic cameras in all the cities that are connected to the internet. They found a vulnerability in the cameras that are mounted on the traffic systems, right? And we're able to affect those and use those to bring down a website, all right? So these, like I said, these guys are creative. Those folks are smart. I mean, they do this stuff for a living. That's what they do. They don't have Silicon Valley, all right? They have literally their whole sectors of their economy are devoted just to developing this software. They professionally developed it. It started out being written by folks in their mom's basement, right? But now it's big, big business. They follow the same kind of development process that people at Microsoft and Google use. So this whole Internet of Things is going to be a problem, because those number of those devices are going to be brought online. It's going to make the internet even astronomically larger than it already is. It's already too big to wrap your head around. It's going to get 10 times bigger. All right. Any questions on any of that? Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned use the antivirus. Are there any programs that are really good?
There's free ones out there. There's one that you have to pay for. I'm a fan of you get what you pay for. So here's part of the problem. Like I said, is there's about 250,000 separate pieces of malware created every day on the internet. And like I said, those antivirus applications are totally dependent upon somebody reverse engineering that malware, identifying the pattern of those ones and zeros, and then they push all that information out to everybody's computer, right? Well, that takes time, and that takes money, and that takes people. So if they're not charging anything for that, how are they paying those folks to do all that? Probably not, all right? So it's probably not gonna be as current. But again, antivirus software is not bulletproof, 100% not bulletproof, but better than nothing for sure. So I would recommend, say, either Norton or Symantec or McAfee, one of those top three. And they're about roughly $49.
What about WebRoot
WebRoot,
through Best Buy?
I'm not familiar with that one.
Okay.
I can't give you one, yeah.
Okay.
I'm not familiar with that one either. I know I've heard of it, but I can't say which one is better than another one. I just tend to gravitate more towards bigger and better. They got more resources to be able to do this stuff. I know, like, for example, Symantec, they've got research centers around the world, so the sun never sets on a Symantec entity. In other words, so whenever somebody finds malware in Southeast Asia, they're working on that around the clock. When those guys get off of work, it shifts over to somebody else. So there's round-the-clock coverage, if you will. And that kind of thing costs money. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Do we have people that are working to override the people who know what, there's gotta be somebody smarter than those people, if they can do that, how it works.
We're trying. Yeah, whatever. We're 100% trying.
How are we trying? I mean, who's trying? Just,
Well, you've got the federal government's trying it. You've got private sector are trying. The universities are trying. It's just overwhelming. I mean, because a lot of the stuff, I mean, for example, traditional academic research relies on peer review, for example, where you've got scientists do the work, and they take a year or so to do the research, and then another year to get the thing peer reviewed and all that stuff. Well, in our world, you're like 12 pieces of malware behind, you know what I mean? So it is a huge struggle to do this stuff. And that's why, and there's a little bit of a turf war still figuring it out, because you've got, you know, where does the responsibility stop from the government, and where does the private sector pick up? And those lines are blurred. For example, like you would think the military would be in charge of protecting us. Well, right now they're in charge of protecting anything with a .mil or a .gov email address. Basically, those domains is what they defend, unless there's a time of war. So they've kicked that now to the Department of Homeland Security. So now they're trying to figure all that out. One of the other challenges is the investigative piece. You've got the FBI and the Secret Service are the ones primarily that investigate these kinds of things. Part of the problem is as far as the federal government's concerned, they're not going to investigate things unless they reach a certain level or a certain sensitivity. In other words, it's impacting the hospitals, or it's impacting the nuclear industry or something like that, some other thing, or it's at a certain monetary value. So the problem is, that's probably going to be $50, $60, or $100,000 depending on where you're at. So what happens to all the other folks that are getting victimized for $50,000 or $60,000? That stuff's going uninvestigated right now.
so do we know basically how these people are doing it? We just don't know how to stop it. Would you say that's right?
Ish, but we know how to stop it, but it's a multifaceted problem. Part of it is a jurisdictional thing. Is it, for example, in Eastern Europe, they don't have a real, they're not very motivated to arrest these folks, to help us investigate the stuff. They have a thing called bulletproof hosting, for example, where they host a lot of child pornography and a lot of these dark websites to where they sell and trade our stolen credit card information. Well, those guys are not motivated to take that stuff down, and our law enforcement here has no ability to do anything with it. So that's part of the problem, is the jurisdictional issues. And that's a huge challenge. It is. It's a very, very complex problem. Yes, sir.
A two-part question about backup. What do you think is the best method, and what do you think is some of the best software?
Personally, I like the convenience of like Dropbox and Google Drive, the cloud stuff. Because what you can do basically is install a little small piece of software on your computer, and it basically looks like another hard drive. So for the user side of it, it's like having a separate hard drive, but it's all for Dropbox. And then as long as you're connected to the internet, that data is automatically pushed up there. And then you can grab that from anywhere you've got internet connectivity. So if something were to happen to your local machine, all your data is still fine up there in the cloud, if you will. I think either one of those are fine. I've had really good luck with those, or OneNote or OneDrive from Microsoft. It's another one. Any of those, I think Amazon also has web storage that you can get. So by the time you go to Google Drive, Dropbox, and Amazon, you can probably get 3 or 4 gigs at least of free space. It won't cost you a dime. And unless you're downloading movies or got tons and tons of music, the odds of you eating through that space is not gonna be that great. So I think it's a pretty cost-effective way to do that. So, and then even if you pay for it, you can get a ton of space, and it's really like $50 a month or a year, that kind of thing. Does that answer your question?
If you're using hardware, what's a good program to use? You're not doing cloud.
Basically, you need to buy an external USB drive and do that. Now, the problem is like I said, is that if you go to the cloud, yes, you're turning your data over to a third party, which is problematic for some. The problem with the hardware is it's hardware. It's a physical man-made thing, and it probably will fail at some point. So if you're relying solely on that piece of hardware, it's almost like rolling the dice unless you got another, unless you get like two things in the mirror, you know what I mean? Then I think you'd be in a better place. There's an old IT saying that as far as backups goes, one is none. General.
Any recommendations on software to do that sort of thing?
You don't need software. I mean, all you gotta do is plug up that external hard drive, and then it's gonna recognize it, it'll mount it. You get like a C or a D, it looks just like a regular drive on your computer. You just open it up in Windows Explorer, put it and copy your stuff up to that.
I'm not talking about that manual process. I mean, backup software that would do that for you, incremental backups.
I've been out of that game for a long enough time that that's more of a business thing. I think a lot of folks, most people just rely on the old, open it up through Windows Explorer and just move the files over. I don't have a recommendation on that one. I'm just not big enough for that right now to be able to give you a good enough answer. Anybody else? So
If you switch to a Mac, you can use Time Machine and it will do it for you.
yeah, I mean, anybody use Macs? Anybody a Mac user? You guys, good, all right.
What did she say? What was that?
It's called Time Machine. It's a built-in like backup software on a Mac. So you can automate that. Windows probably has a similar deal, but I'm not. I'm a Mac person more or less. So I'm not sure what the Windows equivalent would be, but they probably have something. Yes, sir.
So if I have a USB drive set up as Time Machine on my Mac, and I have it plugged into the USB port all the time, and someone sends me malware and I click on it, will it only affect the hard drive, or will it also affect my Time Machine USB drive?
Great question. Ransomware will eat up anything that's connected. It's designed to purposely find anything that's connected to it. It'll start to infect it. We had, it's probably been a year or two ago, we had ransomware get into the College of Science. So those guys are running around with their hair on fire trying to figure out, unplug things before it got to all the, the 11 herbs and spices, if you will, and all the secrets we had over there. Make sure it wasn't going to happen. That stuff is designed to find all the storage.
So we only plug it in when we run it, and we only plug it in.
Right, yeah, absolutely, 100%. One of the other questions I saw, I think, from the email was about routers, how to secure a router at your house. A few things I would suggest there is, one is change the password. A lot of times they come with a default password that is Googleable. If you can go there right now and Google the default password, if you know the make and model or just the make. In fact, there's probably only 4 or 5 that are ever used anyway. So those things are publicly known, publicly available. So if you're using the default password, you got your doors all wide open, basically. So change the default password on your routers, all right, instantly, all right. The other thing you can do is, you guys know what the SSID is. It's sort of like the name of your router, all right. One of the things I would suggest also doing is if you've got it named, like John's Wi-Fi, bad idea. Call it something that's totally unrelated to you. That way nobody can target you specifically, all right? But lock all that stuff down. Make it a name of, random color and a number, okay? It means nothing. That's the best thing to do for that. Make sure you're using like WPA2, that's the encryption protocol on your router to make it the most secure it can be. All right, so there's options when you configure your router, set it up, you can pick how secure you want it to be, and you want it to be WPA2. That's the latest. If it's not WPA, then WP. If it's not WPA2, then make it WPA. And if you don't have WPA, you probably got a router that's too old. Because what can happen is there's a case in Minnesota where a young lawyer and his wife and their son became victims of the next door neighbor. But basically, the big problem that the guy next door basically made a sexual advance toward the child. They called the cops on the guy. Well, the guy then starts this campaign of terror against the family next door, he's able to log into their router. He's able to then log into that guy's email address and starts emailing child pornography to that guy's bosses. He then does the super criminal move of threatening Joe Biden from this guy's email address, which gets the Secret Service interested, and all this stuff, all because their router was unsecured. Now, that's probably not going to happen to you, but it's in the realm of possibility, right? So if your stuff is locked down, nobody can do those things to you, right? Make sure you're using it as far as passwords go. How many of you guys, somebody else asked about a password manager. Anybody use a password manager now? Okay, do you guys know what a password manager is? All right. It's a piece of software, basically general. As far as passwords go, you want the longer the better, and the more random the better. Okay? So what does that mean? You're talking, ideally, the sweet spot is probably around 15 or 16 characters in length. All right? So it gets to be problematic for us to remember all this stuff. So that's what these password managers do. They do a couple of things. One is they're able to keep track of all these passwords. If we're doing the right thing and we're using different passwords for different places, we're not reusing. How many guys have the dirty secret of your reusing passwords? All right? So I know some of you guys are lying, and that's okay. But it's fine. Ideally, that's not a good idea. So if you have these password managers, the other thing that they do is they'll randomly generate, with the click of a button, one of these great big, long, crazy passwords for you. Then it stores all that. Now, that's the good news, all right? All your passwords are in one place, which is awesome. The bad news is, all your passwords are in one place, right? So the problem is, all you got to do is remember 1 instead of 30, right? But that 1, it better be a dandy, because if they get that, they've got the keys to the kingdom, right? They've got everything. So if you're going to go that route, make sure the one that you've got is long and random, all right? Maybe write that down, keep it in a safe place, that kind of thing. I've got my in-laws are obsessed with changing their passwords because they forget them. So my mother-in-law will lock out the father-in-law because she's changed the iTunes account 7 times in an hour because she forgets it. So it's a constant battle. So there's like, we've got hundreds of spreadsheets trying to track all this. It's almost like landing a spacecraft, you know, it's sort of like all this data has to be analyzed to get their passwords straight. So I like password managers. The problem is, again, though, all the stuff's in one place, and that's going to be the biggest argument against it, is they're all in one place. They do break from time to time. LastPass, which is the one I use. There's a few of them out there. LastPass is one. And basically how it works is you install a thing called a browser plugin. It's a little piece of software that's kind of added to your browser. It becomes a little button up there by the address bar in your web browser. And basically what it will do is once you have that, you'll log into your password manager. Once you're browsing the internet, it will automatically fill in all the usernames and passwords for all the sites for you. All right? And that's convenient. Okay, the other thing, like I said, it's going to be, it's only as strong though as that master password. So as long as you've got that straight and it's as random and as long as you can make it, all right, right around 15 to 16 is probably going to be good enough. But you need to use, when I say when it's got to be random and long, it also has to include uppercase, lowercase, and special characters. Okay, so all the exclamation points, @ symbols, asterisks, $signs, all that stuff. Make sure you include all those things in that password. Yes, sir.
We have a VPN on our devices and our hard drive on the computer. We can make a comment about VPN security devices.
It's great. You guys all know what a VPN is. It's basically a secure connection from one device to the other. So it's encrypted, so it's good that people can't eavesdrop on your communications or your web traffic. It's a secure from end to end. So I can be at the Holiday Inn in St. Louis and connect to VPN here at Marshall. So then it's a secure connection to where nobody can get in between that and monitor that. It's a really good system if you can get one.
Give that name again.
It's called a VPN.
Password manager.
Oh, LastPass, LASTPASS, LastPass.
Last.
Your LAST pass.
Talk a little bit more about the VPA.
VPN.
VP, what?
VPN, Virtual Private Network.
Okay, and how do you get that, and how does it work?
Typically, it's, without getting into the weeds,
Okay.
it's one of those deals where a lot of times it's used for like, businesses will use one. Like we have one here at Marshall, it's mandatory. If you're going to connect to any kind of a university resource, you're probably going to have to log in through the VPN. It's a piece of software that you can use. And there's other private VPN clients that you can get. It's another Do you have somebody to help you with this at the house if you're not familiar with it, like your own IT guy, like a tech person? Because it can be a little tough to set it up sometimes. So you may need some help for somebody that really knows what's going on and be able to troubleshoot it. Because a lot of times it can be kind of cantankerous. So, but you have a Mac or a PC? PC. Just Google and see what the top-rated VPN. You don't want to use the word VPN space client. CLIENT is the word, and it'll give you. You know, you can pay for them or you can get one for free, but you can try to do some research and see what ones are. You know, the one that we use here at the university is made by Cisco, for example.
Okay. I travel with my job, and when I'm gone, I need to get in and put in expenses in my time while I'm gone, and I use my iPad. And, you know, I'm always worried about this, you know, being secure on that. So suggestions for that or whatever?
I've not tried to use, I think there's a VPN client for the iPad. I've not used it. I typically, when I'm doing that kind of work, I'm on my MacBook from the house, so that, I'm pretty sure there is a client for iOS, but you might want to just,
There's a Cisco one.
Is there?
I've used it.
okay.
You go to,
It's something you download?
Yeah, it's software.
Okay.
It'll install just like you get it from the App Store. It'll install just like any other app.
Yeah, because I get really concerned about, you know, when I'm in hotels.
Sure.
And places like that.
100%. And one of the things.
Yeah, because when I'm doing my punch card and my expenses, into that is all my information. that
Sure.
they have on hand.
I would get with your IT folks to see what, because the settings are going to be the problem or the question. How they, what's going to be asked, like the servers and protocols and all this stuff that are very, very, very specific. So you'll need to make sure you know all that before you can configure your VPN client. So I would just ask your IT folks.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
From where you sit here locally, if you were gonna take your computer to a reputable, I mean, what are you looking for in terms of a reputable repair, kind of cleanup? I mean, can you give a hint just as to, like, because you see, you'll see it like on the
South Road.
West End, there'll be one place that's
Sure.
Is there something just?
I typically would look for personal recommendations. Somebody that's done business with the folks first, that kind of thing, and maybe even you look for reviews on maybe one of those sites where you get to review services and stuff. You might find somebody there. I've got somebody I can came out here a little bit that I've used successfully before. He's not cheap, but he's good and reliable, so that kind of thing. Again, I probably would rely primarily on personal recommendations, somebody that's done business with them, make sure they've been around for a while. As far as like certifications and those kind of things go, that's hit or miss. So I think I would rely primarily on personal recommendations, in my opinion, if it was me. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Would you rely on Best Buy Geek Squad for most of us?
Oh, yeah, I think they're fine for a lot of things. You just got to be, where you get to be. Sometimes they may overcharge. That's one of the scary things about Best Buy. I think is a lot of times they're going to give you it's like almost going to the car dealership, or they're going to upsell you with everything, all this stuff. Sometimes, so it's helpful if you've got somebody you can rely on that knows more about technology than you do, perhaps. If you got somebody you can rely on to go there and be able to sift through the sales speak, that kind of thing. That'd be one thing I would probably want to rely on. Then I get a couple of quotes. Find somebody that have a couple of alternatives to be able to compare that to Best Buy. Because a lot of times those national chains are going to charge you more than, let's say, somebody local might. That kind of thing.
I take it to report if you are receiving ransomware, the FBI.
Yeah, there's a thing called the Internet Crime Complaint Center.
Okay.
That you can do this all online. It's the Internet Crime Complaint Center. And it's just a website. You can Google that. And you can go to the FBI's website, they've got it, but you can also just Google it. Internet Crime Complaint Center. There'll be a series of, like a form you fill out.
Okay.
That kind of thing.
And there won't be CBS at the bottom?
Absolutely, 100%. CVS, Best Buy, Kroger,
Is there anything they do to help you? I mean, it seems to be that it's paying or who's it?
The problem is they're overwhelmed. That's part of the deal. I mean, yeah, it's a great point, is when you make that complaint, is you're just helping pad the statistics. The odds are that they're not gonna, the FBI is probably not gonna come to your house, all right? And I hate to say that, but they're just overwhelmed. They're looking at companies being, hacked, that are losing, tens if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in damage, that kind of thing, and they're just overwhelmed. And it's a sad deal. A lot of stuff gets, uninvestigated, basically.
So they're not going to help, they're just going to say, hey.
Probably. I didn't say that, but there's not. What they're gonna say is go to Best Buy or go to your own nerd, your own hire a nerd, that kind of guy you need to have on staff. But I mean that's where we're at, unfortunately.
When you're retired, you don't have a nerd.
You got
don't have one.
grandsons, granddaughters. You
Eventually,
got a
they're not
grand.
old enough to have any. They're nervous and
It's hard to get.
it is.
Okay. What else did I miss? Any other questions? Well, thank you guys very much for letting me speak to you guys.